Yo, picture this, Dullsville, USA, a place where dreams come to die, or at least, that's what it feels like most days. The town square's got this old, faded, "Welcome to Dullsville" sign that looks like it hasn't been touched in decades. It's a place where time seems to stand still. Population, barely enough for a pickup basketball game. Seriously, you could walk down Main Street and not see a single soul for hours. The basketball court's always empty, just like the dreams of most folks around here. We got Dwayne, aspiring rapper with more rhymes than dollars. He's got this beat-up car that barely runs, but his mind is always racing with lyrics and beats. Dwayne's the kind of guy who can turn a mundane moment into a freestyle session. His girl, Keisha, dreams of hairdressing school in the big city. She's always got her nose in fashion magazines, cutting out pictures of hairstyles she wants to master someday. Keisha's got talent, no doubt, but talent doesn't pay the bills. Me? I'm Marcus, Dwayne's best friend since we were kids, always down for an adventure, especially if it involved fast cars. We've been through thick and thin together, from sneaking into the local drive-in to dreaming about hitting the open road. Problem was, fast cars cost money, and money was something we ain't have much of. Our wallets were as empty as the promises this town made. We spent more time looking at cars we couldn't afford than actually driving them. We were tired of scraping by, tired of Dullsville's dead-end jobs and even deader nightlife. The nights were the worst, filled with boredom and the same old routine. We wanted more, something to break the monotony. Keisha deserved better, and Dwayne, with his lyrical genius, deserved a platform. They both had dreams that were bigger than this town, dreams that needed a chance to grow. Keisha's eyes would light up whenever she talked about her future, and Dwayne's passion for music was infectious. But every path to a better life seemed blocked, guarded by the one thing we lacked: cold, hard cash. It felt like every opportunity was a door slammed in our faces, a constant reminder of what we didn't have. That's when the crazy idea hit us, all thanks to Officer Johnson's shiny new patrol car. It was like a beacon, a symbol of everything we wanted but couldn't have. And that's where our story really begins, with a wild plan to change our lives forever. It started as a joke. Just another one of those wild ideas you throw around when you're bored and looking for a way to escape the monotony of everyday life. We were hanging out at our usual spot, a little corner of the park that had become our sanctuary. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over everything, and we were deep in conversation, complaining about life, our jobs, and the endless cycle of nothingness that seemed to define our existence. That's when Dwayne, eyes glued to Officer Johnson writing parking tickets across the street, mumbled, "Man, if only we had wheels like that." His voice was low, almost as if he was afraid the thought itself was too dangerous to speak out loud. There was a beat of silence, a moment where the absurdity of the idea hung in the air. Then we all burst out laughing, the kind of laughter that comes from deep within, the kind that makes your sides hurt and your eyes water. "Stealing a cop car? Insane!" someone exclaimed, and we all nodded in agreement. It was crazy, ludicrous even. But in that moment it didn't seem entirely impossible. The more we joked about it, the less crazy it sounded. We started to entertain the idea, seriously considering the logistics. How would we do it? When would be the best time? What would we do if we actually pulled it off? This was our chance to finally break free from Dullsville's gravitational pull. The town had a way of sucking the life out of you, making you feel like you were stuck in a never-ending loop of mediocrity. Dwayne, with his dreams of becoming a musician, could use the car to drive to Atlanta for a music showcase. It was his big break, the opportunity he'd been waiting for. Keisha, always the dreamer, could use the prize money from the showcase to jumpstart her own ambitions. She had plans, big plans, and this could be the catalyst she needed. And me? I just wanted to feel the wind in my hair as we drove far, far away from here, to leave behind the mundane and embrace the unknown. It was a wild idea, but in desperate times, desperate measures start to make a lot of sense. Dwayne, the mastermind, came up with the plan. It was simple, foolproof even. Almost. Officer Johnson always took a 30-minute lunch break at Miss Mabel's diner, leaving his car unlocked. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, was to borrow the car, drive to Atlanta and back, and return it before Johnson finished his meatloaf special. We knew it was risky, but desperation can make you do wild things. Plus, we convinced ourselves it wasn't really stealing, more like borrowing, with a sprinkle of unauthorized use. Alright, maybe a lot of unauthorized use. The day of the heist arrived, hot and sticky like a pecan pie left out in the sun. My heart pounded like a drum solo as we watched Johnson park his cruiser and head into the diner. This was it. Dwayne slid behind the wheel, and with a surprisingly authentic woo-woo of the Siren, we were off. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. We were flying high, literally, bumping Dwayne's new mixtape and feeling the freedom we'd only dreamed of. We were invincible, unstoppable, until we weren't. Section 5, Donuts, Detours, and Disaster. Remember what I said about foolproof? Scratch that. Our first mistake? Stopping for donuts. Turns out even criminals need a sugar rush. Our second mistake? Leaving the borrowed Siren on while parked outside the donut shop. Yeah, not our smartest move. Suddenly the shop door swung open, and there stood Officer Johnson, looking like we'd just stolen his last jelly-filled. Turns out Miss Mabel's had run out of meatloaf, cutting his lunch break tragically short. Section 6, When Keeping It Real Goes Wrong. Now most folks would panic at this point, not us. We were a tight-knit group, always looking out for each other, and we had been through some pretty wild situations before. But this one was different. The tension in the air was palpable, and you could almost hear everyone's heart pounding in unison. We knew we had to think fast, but none of us had any idea what to do. See, Dwayne, being the aspiring rapper that he is, decided to handle the situation his own way, with a freestyle rap battle. It was a bold move, and honestly none of us saw it coming. But that's Dwayne for you. Always thinking outside the box, always ready to turn any situation into an opportunity to showcase his talent, right there, in the donut shop parking lot. It was an unusual setting for a rap battle, to say the least. The neon lights of the donut shop flickered in the background, casting an eerie glow over the scene. We all gathered around, forming a makeshift circle, our eyes glued to Dwayne as he prepared to spit his rhymes. He figured if he could impress Johnson with his lyrical prowess, maybe, just maybe, he'd let us off the hook. It was a long shot, but Dwayne was confident. He started rapping about our dreams, our struggles, and even threw in a few lines about donuts, hoping to appeal to Johnson's sense of humor. We watched with bated breath, hoping against hope that this crazy plan might actually work. I gotta admit, Dwayne's flow was fire. He had a way with words that could captivate any audience, and tonight was no exception. His rhymes were sharp, his delivery was flawless, and for a moment, it felt like we were at a concert rather than a tense standoff with the law. We couldn't help but cheer him on, our spirits lifted by his performance. He rhymed about dreams, donuts, and the long arm of the law. But Johnson was a tough nut to crack. He stood there, arms crossed, his face a mask of indifference. It was clear that he wasn't easily impressed, and Dwayne's lyrical genius seemed to be lost on him. He just stood there, unimpressed, chewing on a toothpick like he was judging a pie-eating contest. It was almost comical, the way he remained so stoic in the face of Dwayne's passionate performance. We exchanged nervous glances, realizing that our plan might not be working as well as we'd hoped. Turns out even the power of music has its limits. As Dwayne finished his rap, we could see the disappointment in his eyes. Johnson shook his head, clearly not swayed by the performance. It was a harsh reminder that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, things don't always go your way. We sighed in frustration, knowing that we had to face the consequences of our actions. But at least we had each other, and in that moment our bond felt stronger than ever. Section 7, Redemption and Roadside Revelations. After Dwayne's epic rap performance fell flat, we knew we were cooked. We confessed everything to Officer Johnson, the dreams, the desperation, the donut-induced lapse in judgment. To our surprise, Johnson just sighed, a tired, world-weary sound. Turns out he wasn't always Officer Johnson. Once upon a time he was just Tommy, a small-town boy with big dreams too. He could see himself in us, see the hunger for something more. So instead of slapping on the handcuffs, he offered us a deal. We wash his patrol car, inside and out, and he forgets this whole borrowing incident ever happened. Section 8, Life Lessons from the Wrong Side of the Law. We spent the rest of the afternoon scrubbing, polishing, and detailing that patrol car like it was going on display at a car show. As we worked, Johnson, or Tommy as we now called him, shared stories of his own youthful misadventures, reminding us that everyone makes mistakes, but it's how you learn from them that matters. We returned to Dullsville humbled and wiser, with a newfound respect for the law and a renewed determination to chase our dreams the right way. We also learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate the power of a good meatloaf special. Section 9, Epilogue, Not Quite Hollywood. Life in Dullsville went back to normal, or as normal as it could be after our little adventure. We didn't become overnight celebrities, and Dwayne's rap career was still on hold. But something had shifted. We weren't just kids spinning their wheels anymore. We had a direction, a purpose, and hey, we had a story to tell, a story about a cop car, a donut shop, and the day we almost became Dullsville's most wanted. It wasn't the Hollywood ending we'd pictured, but it was ours, and sometimes that's all that matters.